What is up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and thank you to all the new subscribers that are here. We have reached 281. Thank you guys so much for that. I really appreciate that. Let's get started with tonight's review of Friday Night Smackdown from the McMahon's home state of Connecticut. We opened up the show with Paul Heyman doing a promo about what happens when Roman Reigns doesn't have the Universal Championships. Without this, there's no Roman Reigns, no island of relevancy, no, all that other stuff. By the way, that promo was pretty interesting. We saw on Monday night with Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman. And there was a moment where Paul Heyman was actually fighting tears as Cody was thanking Paul for giving Dusty Rhodes a break with using ECW. But then it got messed up when Paul Heyman said that Roman was the son he wished he had, was which spoiled the moment. But Paul is a heel, so you got to expect that kind of stuff. And then, speaking of heel promos, keep that in mind. But tonight, he says, without Roman, there's in the championships, no islands of relevancy and all. Sami Zayn appears, and I got to say, I really appreciate Sami Zayn addressing something that I have been talking about since the day I started doing reviews, and that is how creepy Paul Heyman looks while staring at Roman all day. He just stares at him. You know what? I got it. I finally figured it out. I finally figured it out. When Paul Heyman, I'm just trying to think if this is a good thing to say. Okay. When Paul Heyman stares at Roman Reigns, he's probably visualizing Caleb Braxton. I don't know. Just a little innocent humor there. But I think he's visualizing Caleb Braxton. That's why he can stare at Roman all day long. Some of you probably saw my review on my top 10 favorite Roman Reigns heel matches, which is also on my wrestling birthday tribute. And I said in the description box that let's hope that Paul Heyman lets Roman Reigns eat his cake in peace without staring him to death. So thank you for doing that, Paul. Keep Sami Zayn in mind, though, because I'm bring up some more stuff. In our opening contest, we had the European Warriors, as I like to call them, because we can't call them the other one because that's an X-rated inappropriate stuff. But Sheamus and Drew McIntyre overcame the Hit Row group in a SmackDown short where Top Dollar got 24 beats of the Balor to his chest, and Sheamus was going very fast, so it was very hard to keep up. But I noticed that Sheamus did 24 beats at 6:24 p.m. And for some of you who are watching on the east side, it is 8:24 East Coast Standard Time. And on midterms, for those of you from Texas and stuff, it was literally 7:24. 24 minutes into the show, Top Dollar gets 24 beats of the ballot. Just wanted to point that out. Nonetheless, they win in very short fashion as Top Dollar got Claymored and Ashante got Bro. Then we have Lacey Evans versus Cameron Harris in a another SmackDown short, with Lacey Evans basically beating up on a jobber while yelling at a fan, "Your mother is weak." Just like The Undertaker yelled at a fan, "Your mama sucks" at Backlash 2002. Y'all, anybody remember that? That was awesome. Now, back to the Usos and the Bloodline issues. We have Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus Jimmy Uso, and tonight Jay showed up from the crowd. The crowd was happy because last week they were chanting, "We want Jay." Tonight we got Jay. Jay showed up as expected to have his twin brothers back, and it was a great match. And one thing I agree that Barrett said is, who needs prepping time when you're as good as the Usos? Obviously, not the Usos because they put on an extraordinary match tonight. And of course, let's see. There was a particular moment that I'm really curious about. There was a moment where as Braun Strowman, as Ricochet was on Strowman's shoulders and leaped off to do a swanton bomb, and Jay pulled Ricochet off, did Michael Cole accidentally say Sammy? If I might be mishearing things, but it looked like Michael Cole accidentally said Sammy pulls Ricochet off of Jimmy Uso. Looks like I heard an accident. I don't know. Nonetheless, it was a great match, and I love the ending part where Ricochet went for the shooting star only to get caught by the Uso splash, and Jimmy Uso and Jay retained the tag team championships. And I believe Jay, at the end of the day, was very confident that his brother was going to come through, and indeed he did. And they talked backstage for a little bit, and Paul Heyman was peeping behind the corner like the creepy Wars that he is. Just kidding. And speaking of backstage segments, Jimmy and Jay had no, Jay and Sammy shared a moment. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later also. We also saw the return of Ronda Rousey to align herself with Shayna Baszler, Rousey knockoff, to attack and terrorize Shotzi and Natalia. Natty, it is a written rule. Never wear heels to WWE ring because you always have to be ready to throw punches. You just, unless you are a female manager like Zelina Vega and Scarlett and all the guys and all the other women who are accompanying the men, obviously a Valentine Day tease. Don't wear red bottoms to the ring because unless you can kick them off quickly, because you always got to be ready for a fight. And Shayna knockoff and Rousey attacked, and you were not ready. Just saying. Speaking of women not being ready, we have Sonya the Crybaby and Chelsea Green, who is married to Edge's Biscuit. I gotta say Biscuit on this channel. But they got their butts kicked real quick by Raquel, who had Eddie Guerrero colors, and Liv Morgan. Speaking of Liv Morgan, just so you guys know, I'm sure MJF was not talking about her. We all heard the story, and everybody, all the fans are throwing if I say that, is that a profane thing to say? All the fans are throwing, I'm gonna take a chance. All the AEW fans and fans, wherever they were that time, were throwing a hissy fit when MJF told a story about the time him and some girl named Liv went on a ride and got into a wreck. Moral of the story is don't sex and drive. Got that one. Obviously, it wasn't Liv because Liv has long hair and Liv's skin isn't brown. But in any event, Liv Morgan and Raquel defeated Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. And because of with Chelsea, I'm starting to wonder, are they making her eat a plate of mess and like it like they did Triple H in the early 90s after the curtain call? I don't know. But in any event, that was quick. What's funny is, I don't know if I should be making this joke, but Wade Barrett asks, who enjoys steel against them? Because Liv said she enjoys steel against them. Well, God is gonna strike me down for this, but let's just say if Liv enjoyed anyone who enjoys steel around them, it's probably because Lex is his first name. But in any event, moving forward, tonight we saw a short segment from Charlotte, and she says she wants to put Liv in her place this year, whereas 3 years ago it was just a lesson. but I think they're probably going to book it for Rhea Ripley to win unless Beth Phoenix gets involved as an act of revenge. I don't know. It's possible that they're going to let Rhea have her redemption story. But as far as the Elimination Chamber goes this Sunday, next Saturday, excuse me, my money is on Asuka. However, let's get into this main event. We had Cross, Moss, Santos, and Ray. Ironically, every one of them were accompanied by a woman to the ring tonight. And of course, Rey Mysterio looked like he was the only one empty handed, but Angie was in the audience. And I'm sure Angie did not appreciate Scarlett tripping Rey over as he was attempting the 619. Nonetheless, it was funny when Cross told Santos, I'm Lucha too. And I would love to see Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio hook it up sometime before Rey Mysterio retires. That would be awesome. Also, we saw, as I mentioned earlier, Scarlett interfere. Zelina Vega didn't get involved in anything tonight, nor did Emma, who was the girlfriend of Moss. And what's interesting is Moss went for the elbow and won the match. You want to know what's funny? I'm gonna make a community post, and it's gonna say from Magic Mike to number one contender. Because for those of you who have followed me a couple of years ago, I had this thing where I called Madcap Moss Magic Mike Moss because number one, he was a heel, and I needed something to make fun of a heel because he was a heel trying to be funny and was nothing more than a cringy joke teller. So I needed something funny to call him and make fun of him. Just like I called Dominic Simp 19, I call Moss Magic Mike Moss. But once he became face and dropped bum Ash Corbin, he became, just like JBL did Monday, by the way, he became likable to me. And now he's number one contender. But what happened at the end was very interesting because Paul told the Usos to stay home because earlier in the night, Sammy and Jay had a moment, and Roman called and told the Usos to stay at home because some things you can see on TV that you can't see when you're live on camera, and did the handshake on the slap hands on the shoulder as a signal that Roman saw the whole thing go down. So business is going to pick up next week. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comments below of what you thought about tonight's episode of Friday Night Smackdown. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. That's all the time I have for you today, and I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. Peace.